Hey, what's going on, y'all? Got another episode of Real Raw Exchange Podcast. My name is Frank, and can I get my co-host to introduce herself?
Hey, this is Nat.
So, um, there's one particular topic that I've been somewhat kind of avoiding, talking about, but I think we should kind of go into it and really talk about it, because it has a lot of factors, in reference to how countries deal with, you know, personnel, different civilians being detained in other countries, or what a country, will end up doing when it comes down to if they have someone of their country being detained in another country, their actions, so on and so forth, as far as said, you know, person, from another country being detained. But so I wanted to go ahead and talk about the whole Brittney Griner situation, the WNBA basketball player, who has been detained in Russia, I believe, a little bit before the start of the Russian-Ukraine war. Okay, pretty much to kind of, well, how about this? I'm gonna go ahead and read this article in reference to details based on what's going on with Brittney Griner, the basketball player, and we'll just kind of go in. So there's this one article, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the link in the description as far as the video. But there's one article that says WNBA star Brittney Griner receives devastating update on her Russia detention, and it goes as follows. WNBA star Brittney Griner has been detained in Russia since February. While fans and Americans have been calling for her release, it seems she won't be freed just yet. According to ABC News, a court in Russia has ruled to extend Griner's detention for at least another 18 days. The ruling from the court will see Griner remain in custody through at least July 2nd. And it says, Griner has been detained since February 17th after being arrested at the Sheremetyevo, I guess that's how you pronounce it, the international airport in Russia. Russian authorities allege she was carrying vape cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage. Hashish, marijuana, so yeah. She was charged with large-scale transportation of drugs and could face up to 10 years in jail. She has since spent 117 days in detention while the United States is pushing for her return. The U.S. State Department officially considers Griner an individual who is being wrongfully detained. The Phoenix Mercury, where Griner plays in the WNBA, met with the U.S. State Department on Monday to discuss her detention. After the meeting, Griner's teammate, Brianna Turner, issued a statement. And the statement is as follows. Today we had a meeting with the State Department about BG. I'm confident in the State Department and the work they're doing. They encourage us to keep speaking her name, to keep holding them accountable, to bring BG back home as soon as possible, Turner says via Fox News. Griner, a WNBA superstar, plays in Russia during the offseason for the Premier League team UMMC Ekaterinburg. Griner is one of the most decorated basketball players of all time. The former Baylor national champion is also a two-time Olympic gold medalist, a WNBA champ, and a seven-time All-Star. So, pretty much since February 17th, Brittney Griner, she's, been detained by, Russian authorities in reference to her having hashish cartridges when it comes down to her vape, her vaping and everything. Hashish, obviously marijuana. So, here's my take on this, to kind of give my initial take. So, I'm gonna just put it like this. I honestly believe that she could have potentially been released earlier if the Ukraine war with Russia did not pop off. Okay? And here is my belief on that. The reason why I believe that she could have been, released earlier, is because I believe that kind of indirectly, um, they are using her as leverage to also push the United States to stop certain aspects of them aligning with Ukraine when it comes down to potentially Ukraine being a part of NATO. Where Brittney Griner, she's a pawn in this game. She's just a pawn. However, there was a young man, military, who was released about around the same time they were thinking of releasing Brittney the first time around, and he got released. He is now back in the States, but Brittney isn't, and she's still being held in detention. They pushed, her detainment a lot longer. I think the reason why they ended up pushing her detainment a lot longer is because certain representatives, when it came down to witnesses, as far as her trial, for her actually being sentenced, what may have you, certain witnesses were not available at the trial, so they extended the date. So it's kind of this thing where, because Russia is in the public eye right now, especially with them, popping off a war with Ukraine, and all the details in reference to that, all the details when it comes down to NATO operations, when it comes down to NATO, as far as all the countries that tie to NATO, what may have you, Russia, I believe, is going to do what they need to do to make sure they have the upper hand in reference to anything and everything when it comes down to Ukraine not being a part of NATO. That's my initial thought about this, where Brittney, she's just a pawn in, a larger scheme, a larger game. However, I also have, another understanding of it in reference to Brittney, and I'll even go as far as saying this, WNBA players not being seen or held of greater value because they're not paid as much, and they're seen not of greater value because they would be considered not to be on the same level as NBA players. So they're not, or certain powers that be are not going to push forth an effort to do what is necessary that would be, morally right. What's your take on this, Nat?
This is a lot for me because I didn't know about this until now. So, I'm sorry. I don't know. I mean, I think it does sound like she is. And forgive me, I didn't know about this whole situation. I knew about the war between Ukraine and Russia, but because that's been all over the news. But I did not know about this. Probably has too. I just didn't know about it. But I think, I mean, hearing you talk about it and then reading the article, because I did read the article before we got on, it does sound like, I mean, it does feel like she is being used as a pawn. I mean, I would say that. And I don't think, I mean, this isn't the first time that, someone from the US has been detained in a foreign country, right? And I
Right.
definitely don't think it's the first time that people have felt that because of something that's been going on between two countries or between, multiple countries, that the detainment is just, a casualty of war, I guess, if you will. But it looks like they're fighting. And it looks like, for me, from what I read, looks like they're fighting to have her come back home. But I guess my question is, if she's released from Ukraine,
from Russia.
is she going to be in prison here in the States? Is that what they're fighting for?
No, 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 no.
Did she
So
continue her
here,
sentence? Because it said that she may be. Okay, go ahead.
well, she's not being detained in Ukraine. She's being detained in Russia
I'm
because
sorry, I'm pretty Russian.
because of Russian laws in
Right,
reference
I'm
to
sorry.
the usage of hashish or the usage of marijuana. You
Yeah,
know,
right, yeah.
where I mean, here's another thing. One thing that we could think about is, there are a good amount of states within the United States that marijuana is legal.
Right, and
So,
but there's some that is still
but there's some that still aren't.
there's still battling.
But
Yeah.
then also other details in reference to if she does or is able to go to a state, let's just say the state that she actually lives in with her wife, because she's also a part of the LGBT community. When it comes down to going to that state, does that particular state, and I don't know the state that she lives in, but does that particular state make it you know, legal when it comes down to marijuana? And if it is legal, on what varying levels are the stipulations in which it is legal? Because also, here's another factor. They could have, taken, obviously they've taken the vape in addition to the hashish oil,
Right.
you know. But my thing is, if she doesn't have it and now she's being released and ends up coming back to the States, um, I don't think there will be any stipulations in which she would be detained in the States also, because she did not go against American laws. She went against Russian laws. And it's now the big
Right.
thing of just bringing her back to the States so she can be with her family, so she can be with her wife, so she can, do what is necessary to continue her life. Now, another
But
factor,
how can that? Right. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I was just saying, another factor that I would think of, I'm not necessarily worried about, state laws when it comes down to her coming back to the States. I'm worried about her profession when it comes down to how the WNBA is being seen now because she was detained. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? I didn't think about it that way. I mean, because I'm thinking about as just an individual person, but I didn't think about her as as a profession, as
Yeah.
a WNBA player. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
didn't think about it that way.
just let's be real about it. Realistically, when you are a part of a particular organization that must maintain a certain look, a lot of times, when it comes down to these organizations, NFL, NBA, especially as far as, sports, if you do something that they will consider immoral, then you probably are going to be held under certain stipulations that could also be in your contract that now will prevent you being able to, play games, do certain things that you need to do when it comes down
Oh
to,
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Where I don't know, because both could happen. She could be held under the scrutiny of state laws, you know, but she could also be held under scrutiny when it comes down to stipulations in her contract that she has signed, that she has to play a certain amount of games for, based on what the WNBA says, based on what those professionals within that organization say,
Yeah.
because she's still held under that contract no matter what happens. My whole thing is, what are the fine details of her contract? Because if one of the things in there is tied back to or in reference to how you're perceived, or how you're perceived when it comes down to you going overseas and playing a part of other organizations, so on and so forth, and you go against that in various ways, she could get a metaphorical slap on the hand when she gets back to the States. We really don't know. You know what I mean? But I mean, it is good that U.S. professionals are trying to get her back. to the States, U.S. personnel, they're trying to get her
Right.
back.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that. I just don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I just don't know if it's gonna do her more good. So that was my thinking about it. I don't know if it will, because in my mind, and I don't know how the law works in Russia. I don't know. I just don't like that's completely out of my wheelhouse to be candid. But I will say that um, if this happened in Russia and she's been detained in Russia and people are fighting to have her come back to the States, and like you said, I guess depending on state laws and where she'll, if she does come back, and because she's been there for, I think that the article said like 117 days.
117 days, yeah.
She's been detained. And it says that she could face up to 10 years. That's a long time.
She could be imprisoned.
But that's Russia, right? That's not.
That's Russia, but
that that may not necessarily apply if she comes back to the U.S.
But it
that
could it could apply because
right?
of what is in her contract. Because when you sign a contract, you have to be under the scrutiny and stipulations within that contract. Her now being imprisoned for 10 years automatically cancels out what her contract states as far as what she needs to do. So now, not only would she end up getting a 10-year imprisonment, but also when it comes down to the stipulation of the contract, after those 10 years, she would have to be held under the scrutiny of the details in which now she needs to be punished for what she did not provide based on her signing that contract. Whatever is in it.
Yeah.
Say that again.
With the basketball league, right?
Right, I mean, with the WNBA. We don't know.
Basketball association, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't know what's in her contract. But there are also stipulations in which if you cannot, follow the stipulations of your contract, these are the details in which you are going to be held under based on you not following details in your contract. And a 10-year imprisonment is immediately going to cut her out of that.
I wouldn't argue. Yeah, so I'm on the same page as that. I would. But in her mind right now, it's,
in her mind, she's just trying to get home.
The offense right now is probably greater than her contract because nobody wants to go to prison. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important, but I think if at least if I were her right now, if I'm facing 10 years in prison, I'm worried about what I did, what I may have done to breach my contract or right?
Yeah.
But that 10 years in prison looked like it's priority right now. Like, wait a minute. Because, after 10 years, let's just hypothetically say after 10 years, her contract says that she can come back to the NBA. It's probably not going to say that, but I'm just saying if it does say that, I don't know. I just think that's just a long time for. That's just that's a big sentence for that, and I don't know if that's going to be the same in the U.S. as it is in there. But if she gets, if she does make it through this, well, she'll make it. But if she gets, if she's sent back to the U.S. and let's just say she's sent to a state where marijuana is legal, does that change what's going on right now? Like, how would that change that? Like, would they? You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to see where the jurisdiction is, where it's not. So I'm trying to see.
Well, when it comes down to United States, obviously different states, the concept of reciprocity. Different states have different laws in reference to particular stipulations based on marijuana. So when she comes back to the States, whatever state she's coming back to, I don't think she's going to be held under the scrutiny of federal laws. Because now it's not the federal government dealing with saying that marijuana is illegal in all states in the United States. That's federal level. Now you're dealing with state. How we were talking about the whole details in which, you know, last episode, Roe versus Wade, like on a federal level, you know, abortions at one time were, you know, legal. You can get abortion anywhere, you know, within the United States. Now, since it has been overturned on a federal level, the states are now held under the scrutiny of creating laws in reference to if they're going to accept, you know, abortions within their state or if they're not, and it will be illegal either under certain stipulations or illegal, period. You know, it's the same thing. So now you have the states, depending on what state she goes to, because she is in possession of it based on that state laws, on those state laws, she got to be fair, clean, you know, clear of anything, or based on the state, they're going to be like, oh, well, she needs to be, you know, detained because of the fact that she still has, you know, her vape and the hashish oil or something, you know? We don't necessarily know.
Well, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see. Okay. I see what you're saying now.
So, I mean, another thing I, you know, wanted to bring up, and I'm gonna bring it up. I don't care. Where there are certain people that if they're detained in a country, the United States may have more of an investment in bringing those people back based on certain demographics.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the young man that they brought back to the States, you know, obviously of certain demographics, you know, in the military, you know, and we, you know, believe that race, you know, doesn't matter anymore. But I mean, it does, you know, white young man, you know what I'm saying? In addition to, you know, his parents.
Race plays a lot in everything. I mean, I think race, I don't speak on race a lot, but it does play a lot. Even in the Roe versus Wade thing,
I mean, plays a lot. Details when it comes down to race could be an effect. Details when it comes down to political parties or political groups that you're tied to could also be an effect.
Or gender.
Or details when it comes down gender.
Yeah.
Gender, that can also be an effect too, where you have other countries that are be like, well, you know, this guy is not of as much value in being detained, but we're not going to say she's a prisoner of war. We're not going to say she's a POW.
Yeah.
Because she was detained prior to the war kicking off. She wasn't. She was just a detainee. And she's still a detainee. Technically. Right. You know, however, we're still more than likely going to use this as leverage to be able to get somebody back. You know what I mean? Because they were also talking about exchanging her for someone who, you know, is from Russia that has been in prison for a very long time, where it's kind of this thing where, okay, are you giving us someone back of more value when we give you someone that we consider of less value? Now you're talking about the details of value now, you know, where it's just like, okay, well, if y'all really see her of more value, give us the guy that we see of value that y'all ended up, you know, putting in prison or detaining. He's been detained for obviously quite a few years now. You know, that y'all thought he was a spy or whatever, and bring him back and we'll do an exchange. You know? So it now becomes, okay, how much is the US doing compared to how much is Russia doing? You know, because obviously Russia, you know, they have a certain investment in keeping her. They do. We see that. They may not say it, but we see it in action.
Right, yeah.
But now it becomes, well, we're going to try to drag this out to see how much we can get out of giving her back. You know?
Right.
And
Yeah,
my
yeah,
whole
I
thing
see
is
that.
my whole thing is when it came down to the witnesses at, that was supposed to be at the trial, you know, my whole thing is, where do the witnesses go? That's also another question. Why weren't
Wait,
they?
say it again. I'm sorry. It kind of cut
when
out
it when
a
it
little
came
bit.
down when it came down to the witnesses that were supposed to be at the trial, like, my question is, where did they
Okay.
go? You know what I'm saying? If they were supposed to be there, if that was their appointed place of duty, where did they go? You know, and those
Yeah.
witnesses uh held up the trial happening. You know, I guess they're that
Yeah.
important for the trial to, be, I guess, put off until another date, which extending the dates for Brittney Griner to still be in Russia, detained. And apparently, also, I saw something when it came down to them saying that they put her in a very small cell where, the girl's, what, 6'9". You know what I'm saying? Tall woman. And y'all put her in a tiny cell. You know? Insult to injury. You know what I mean? Um, I think the biggest thing for me in my mind is I just want our sister to come back home. That's the biggest thing for me. Bring her back home. You know, if the U.S., based on whatever stipulations, need to, act upon punishing her in a certain way, okay, what will be the punishment? You know, I think the biggest thing is, because a lot of people don't talk about this, when it comes down to the code of conduct, you know. But the code of conduct is more so held under the scrutiny of military personnel, having to make sure that they come home, what is called, with honor, where they're not doing certain things to try to give certain information to people not of this country. Where, let's just say, if Brittney Griner has certain information that could help another country overthrow the U.S. government,
Right.
she would consider to now be an enemy. And that would definitely make her detained, get her to be detained or put in prison, just put away, for the rest of her life. Of course, back in the day, way back in the day, when it came down to you, dishonoring your country, it was automatic. Uh, you were murdered. You were murdered. You know, Obviously that's not the case now, but I mean, what you got in mind? Got some on this, or
I feel really stuck on this one. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, I just feel like I feel like I would like for her to come back home, but then I feel a little piece of me always, I have to weigh out both sides. I just it's in my nature, it's in
that
my
level, yeah,
so it really is. I can't, y'all. I don't ever see one side of anything, even if I'm trying to make dinner. It's two sides to everything.
mm-hmm.
I feel like another factor of this is, we we were mentioning some of the reasons.
Vape and
If she were not famous, right? If she were not in a WNBA player, if she was like a regular okie doke person like you
yeah,
or I, would this still be a fight? That's how I mean. Another part of me goes there. It's like I want her to come back home, but then I feel like, but how many U.S. people, and I don't know the answer to this, but how many, what and we all know what differs her from just a regular person,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Her status, her, um but I feel like status plays a big part in this too.
yeah,
And I feel like, and the two witnesses, I guess they just disappeared, right? Because I think I was reading up on it and it looked like her attorney I guess, is not sharing much else about her case,
No, no.
right?
Well,
And she did have, I
I don't
guess,
know.
two.
I don't know if she has American representation. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think
I don't think
so.
she. It,
I
that's
wouldn't
not
say
a.
no
I don't think
because
that's a
the person.
thing, as far as her getting her representation in the states to be able to come to Russia to be her representative on her behalf. The representation she has is someone in Russia.
Right.
So more or less, in thinking about it, this is why
They could already play against her though, if
it.
if you think about it.
Yep.
So you're detained in Russia. You have Russian representation. It just, to me, it's like there is no. She needs a person or someone.
I'm gonna go for the side that both lawyers have certain benefits when it comes down to being able to milk this case.
Don't talk to me about attorneys. They all got some benefit to milk any
Because
case.
I mean, let's be real
A
about it.
lot of
You
benefit.
got
That's all
attorneys
I'm gonna
that
say about that. But when
you
it comes
got
down to
attorneys that will
attorneys
make
and
deals.
players, it is just a whole. It's a
That's a
that is
whole different ballgame. You got attorneys that will
a
make
whole.
deals with one another in reference to how both
Yeah,
of them are going to play out the case as a whole, and
yeah,
they won't even
yeah.
they won't
It
even
doesn't. Yeah,
they won't even talk to their representatives. You know what I'm saying? Or sorry, they
yeah,
won't even talk to the I forget the term. They won't even talk to the person that they're representing. They won't even talk to them about that meeting, but then they will just go into details because they just see the person they're representing as a pawn. You know, this is. I mean,
yeah.
let's be real about it.
Because this has not become about defending their client. This has now become about, if I can win this case, this puts me in a whole different ball game. You see what I'm
How
saying? So
how
attorneys, they see it way differently, I think.
how can I increase my profile to make me more valuable to
Yeah.
law firms? How can I do
Or
that?
even if they're in private practice, I think for a lot of it, attorneys are. And let's just be real about it. Like, if we're talking about for this case, whoever her attorney is, if he or she is Russian, I don't know, but I did see the name. It looks like, and I'm not profiling. It just looks like it could be
Mm-hmm.
a Russian name or a foreign name. I should say that. I don't know if it's Russian or not, but even if it is, if it is, for the attorneys, it's like it's about them. It's about them, right? And if her attorney does win this case, let's just say they do win or whatever, even if they lose this case, the fact that they were this person's attorney and this whole thing went public and it's blown up and the trial I don't know about Russia, but I know here in the U.S. for the most part, some trials are open. I'll say that. I don't know about all of them,
Mm-hmm.
but some of them are open to 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 the public, right? If
Yeah.
you think about the FOIA Act, Freedom of Inform of Information Act. It, it, Y'all, I'm studying really bad right now. FOIA is Freedom of Information Act. So it is public information. That means any John Doe off the street can come in and look and sit in on your hearing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that if her attorney, I agree. I think that if the attorneys are, and let's just go past the attorneys. Judges at one point was an attorney. You think that they don't all know each other, or they don't all have some type of connection with one another?
You think
If
they
you have
all
an
are
attorney
not.
that's representing you that really needs a break,
You think
okay,
they all are not trying to get their big break.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They are.
They are.
They are. That's how that's where the big bucks come in for attorneys. Where can my Knicks? They are in a way um, hustlers. That's
Yeah,
what they are.
yeah, yeah.
They're hustlers. They're hustlers because you have people who don't know the law, and unfortunately, status can't help you with that. You have to do that yourself. That groundwork has to be done with you. Even if um, um, this this NBA player, this WNBA player, I'm sorry, if she doesn't understand, and we're not even talking about U.S. law right now because she's in a whole other country, so she doesn't understand how shit works there, and she has a Russian attorney that does understand how shit works there. That's already playing against her, and it's already, whether she knows it or not, that could easily be be playing against her. And the fact that she has two witnesses that are no longer there and no one knows where they are.
I'm gonna put another factor out there, and maybe y'all ain't gonna like what I'm about to say, but it is what it is. Um,
And she's a woman. Let's just say that. She's in Russia. She's a female. I'm just going to say that. It's not like they don't. Gender, I think, plays a big part here. If this was Michael Jordan,
you know
if this
what?
was a white Russian, well, no, white Russian, if this was a white male Russian that played in the States as an NBA player and detained in Russia, do you think that it would be the same?
Well, we wouldn't even hear
I
about
don't
it.
know about
We wouldn't even hear about it.
exactly, exactly.
Like, here's another factor that I just thought about. I believe because Americans have so many choices and we flow more within paradox of choice in us determining, making a choice, even though the choice may come with consequences, the choice may be seen as shameful, we'll still make the choice because we have so much freedom in doing certain things that other people in other countries don't. So when we go to another country and we're just there for whatever short period of time, and more so are in a mindset of, well, I'm gonna just do this, and for me, I don't care what happens to me if I don't get away with it. But if you don't, now you're in a situation where you're being detained by a country. You don't know their laws, you don't know their history, you don't even know how to speak to their people.
Uh, There's already a language barrier,
Well,
and I was gonna say
not
that.
as much. I'm gonna just say, and there's a difference between language barrier and don't know how to speak to their people. Okay, because most European countries, all majority of European countries, pretty much all the European countries, in their education system, they're taught English at a very young age. Okay, so all of them speak
Yeah.
English. However, they
Oh
all
yeah, I
speak
mean,
they all speak English based on their culture, and that's different.
English is a national language, and yeah, in other countries.
They all speak English based on their culture. If you don't understand their culture, you still it will be the same as you not even learning English.
Yeah, and I think and when I think about it, now that I'm thinking about the war between Russia and Ukraine, it would make sense that she's being. It would make a lot of sense that she's being detained for those reasons too, because you have Biden, you have the U.S. that has stepped in multiple ways to help the Ukraine, if I'm right. Um,
So,
and now you have, in certain situations, you have where we have, I think that we provided ammunition, right? Um, and I think it was like tanks or something. Yeah, I'm not following it closely, but I know that we've been providing supplies and weapons to the Ukraine. Um, and there is clearly a war going on between Russia and the Ukraine, and now you have a U.S. citizen stuck in Russia. So that part would make sense to me.
Also, and I'm gonna say this. So why couldn't Brittany think of not bringing her hashish oil and vape machine? Why couldn't
Now, here's
she?
my question: did she get caught coming from Russia into the U.S.? That part I don't know. Or did she
She
get
got
like?
caught. She got caught because she was about to leave Russia, and she got caught.
Oh, so she was bringing it from Russia. So she bought that
No,
in
no, no, no,
Russia.
no, no, no. She didn't buy
Or
it in Russia. I don't think she
okay,
bought it in Russia. I think she brought
okay,
it to Russia. They didn't catch it, and then she was trying to leave, and
and customs.
customs caught it.
Oh,
Doesn't make any sense because
it
my
doesn't
thing
make sense
is,
because if she made it to Russia with it, I'm sure she
if she made
used
it to
it.
Russia with it, if she made it to Russia with it, then it looks bad on them because they didn't catch it initially. Even if they caught it, whenever they caught it, she would have been detained anyway. You know?
Right.
I'm not exactly sure of this. I mean, I heard like she was about to leave. Excuse me, she was about to leave. And that's when they saw, oh, you got this, we need to have you step in this room over here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thing. If she came to Russia with it and you're using it while you're in Russia and then you got caught, obviously there's a behavior in you having a mindset of believing if I got away with it, I can still get away with it. Privilege, okay? Because you have a lot of celebrities, people who have money, people who aren't necessarily wealthy, but people who have money.
But they have some sort of love, yeah.
They have in their mind, well, I can do this now and I can get away with it because I'm so and so. And with me now being
That's
so
like
and
Bobby
so,
Brown. Bobby Brown was broke for the longest. How many times has he got caught with shit? Doing shit. He hasn't. He's not. But because he's Bobby Brown and Bobby, I'm not saying I hate Trump. I'm just putting it out there as you think. But you have other celebrities who do things like this. So yeah, it's true. You
where
got.
I'll put it like this. So everybody got their choice of drug, right? Everybody has their choice of drug. Some people like do cocaine, some people like do crack, some people do marijuana, some people, what I'm saying, do whatever, right? Everybody has their choice.
Yeah.
Especially when they are of a certain status and they are consistently around other people that only value them for what they are able to give, not value them just for their existence, which is
Yeah.
different. When you value someone for their existence, that falls into the category of love. When you value someone for just what they're able to give you or provide, that goes in the scope of using, which can make a human being very anxious and very irritable when they know I got to go over to this country to be able to make some money and perform for these people because I got to make this money. Well, these people are paying for a ticket. I got to do what I got to do to be able to get that money. stress comes with that. Maybe a higher level of stress. Because now people know you. Now it's a dynamic of you don't have as much free time to be able to just decompress, which pushes people who at one time in their life, they were regular people, but then once they got celebrity, now that comes with another set of laws that also reinforces stress levels that that person has never dealt with before. And oftentimes they go to drugs to be able to decompress because they're decompressing en route to the next lick. This is why really a lot of people do drugs. A lot of people do drugs because they're just trying to escape the stress and anxiety of the lifestyle they deal with.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the issue is that so if you kind of break it down, I think that so, and I've never done drugs, but we all know people who do drugs.
Right.
My from what I understand, when you have, when you first start doing drugs, and there are different preferences, you've got meth, you've got crack, like you said, whatever your
all
preference
your
is.
different flavors. I'm gonna just say that.
And apparently they get you high in different ways too, right?
Yep.
Which makes sense of why there's so many different ones.
You have
And why you
uppers, you
have a
have
choice.
downers.
There's a whole menu of drugs. What would you like
Yeah.
to do, right?
What's on the buffet? All
I
I'm
think
saying.
I think that I was gonna say that the first time you do drugs, from what I understand, is that you get this high feeling that you're high.
That's the
And I guess after that, you're basically chasing
chasing
that
the
first
original
feeling.
high consistently.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're doing. Now, what I understand from doing marijuana is that, and let's just be, I'm gonna just go ahead and say this. A lot of people don't count marijuana as doing drugs.
No,
I know a lot of weed
they
smokers,
don't.
and that's a whole different thing, but they don't count it. But it is a drug. They will say it's not a drug, or they will say that it's natural because it comes from the earth and it comes from the ground.
Yeah.
Whatever your preference is, y'all. Whatever your preference is. What I understand from marijuana is that I guess it's a con, it's a continuity it's a continuity to it. It's a continuity to it.
Mm.
Excuse me. Where you get high, it's the same high. It's the same high all the time. But the issue with that is that I think eventually you're gonna want something more. It's kind of chasing after something. It's kind of like a teaser. Like, oh, this is good, but I've had it over and over and over again. Let me try something else. So now you got people lacing it with something. Let me just add this to it, and then things are happening.
I think
I don't know if this girl did anything like that, and I don't even know if she knew the rules before. And that's another thing. Like, did she even know that that was illegal in this country? Like, did she know that?
and that's the point. That's one of the points that I'm trying to make is you have us. You got a good amount of Americans that will go to another country and look at the people in their country as if they are visiting them. The arrogance, the arrogant mindset of, well, who are you? Like, and they are visiting that country. Understand, when you visit another country, you are stepping into another culture that you need to study or have studied prior to even going to that country. This is one of the reasons why the whole drug piece, I was never, you know what I'm saying, like, and I do see alcohol as a drug, like I drink, yes, but I drink sociably,
Right. Yeah.
And I drink
Yes.
responsibly. Everyone has their varying levels depending on the country of drinking. And then you also have countries that are completely dry based on whatever religion is practiced within that country. That's also another fact. So I can either drink or not. I know I have studied the dynamics in which people congregate. Two big things. Two big things that people must understand when it comes down to culture. and understanding other cultures. The two big things that people use to connect to one another, and this is around the world, this is a universal law. Two big things that people use to connect: language and food. Language and food. Okay? Now, you have other factors in which people will congregate, but those two big things are the two big things that most people will come together for. Language is to be able to understand what is actually going on within the culture, so you're not ignorant of it. Food is to understand how people come together and enjoy one another's company in reference to the foods that are delicacies that help people to enjoy themselves. Two big things. However, you also have to learn other dynamics in which is going on in that country. If you are a drug user, or you do hard drugs, or you do drugs that in most cases, when it comes down to majority of countries around the world, actually don't delve into, if you do a drug like that, I would think you would need to educate yourself on how to get away with using the drug. Get away with.
But you're talking about now. Now. I think that you would probably have the regular okie doke person who travels a lot would probably be more likely to do that. Why? Because they don't have any status. They have no money, right? So they have to know what to do to get through. To get their shit through. And if you got a celebrity person who's probably done this, this is not her first time doing this. I don't care what they say.
Oh no, it's not.
She's done this before because she thought that she was going to get away with it again. And unfortunately, it backfired this time.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened here. But if you've got the everyday person who's just going, like, for example, I'm planning a trip now, right? And I sat down last night and I was thinking about going to Amsterdam. And I was like looking at it and stuff. And a friend of mine was like, oh, you gotta smoke weed. I said, I'm not smoking any weed in Amsterdam. I don't smoke weed here. The thing is that just having that is like, see, this is why people get caught doing shit they're not supposed to be doing. Thinking how I'm not. Anyway, if you got that everyday person like me or somebody else, they probably are doing their homework before they go there. But if you got somebody who figure that they can talk to somebody or get through based on themselves,
their status.
I am who I am. You should already know. Or you got people who think that just because they're a U.S. citizen, that gives them a right. Or that gives them some entitlement or some,
Yeah.
you have that. You know what I mean? So
the biggest thing that I'm gonna say, and I think this will be the last point that I'm making. Then we'll go ahead and cut it. But the biggest thing that I'll say when it comes down to all of this is, don't be a celebrity that ends up doing something and now it ruins your cash flow. The thing in which you've gained your status and you need to provide. Because I mean, let's be real about it. Like,
that's like athletes who
you know what?
Who do drugs.
I'ma say it. I'ma say it. I don't care. I'ma say it. Obviously, we know that Brittney Griner is very androgynous, okay? And why I say that is because in her relationship, she seems like she is the masculine one, okay?
Uh-huh.
With that said, and based on her status, it seems like she's probably the main provider in that dynamic.
Probably.
Brittney, you fucking up your money. You fucked up your money because of hashish oil And this is me just holding her accountable. However, still want our sister to come back home. But come on. Like, how much anxiety you're going through to where you make mistakes in reference to you getting caught up that messes up the lick that you got. Because let's be real about it. WNBA is an opportunity. Just the same as NBA is an opportunity, but WNBA doesn't have the same status as the NBA, where from the NBA, you having that opportunity, you could go and do other things. Oftentimes, most WNBA players don't do other things after the WNBA. So it's just an opportunity. Let's keep it a buck. We know about several NBA players. How many WNBA players that we know about that are in the public eye doing something different than playing basketball?
Yeah. Besides Lisa Leslie.
That's the only one I can think of. That is the only one I can think of. Lisa Leslie.
That's who you think about.
It's
when
crazy.
You think about who's doing something else.
Right.
She's the first. And I'm not saying that there's not others, but that's probably the first.
That's the most famous WNBA basketball player that I can think of. Lisa Leslie. Everybody knows Lisa Leslie. But who else do you know? We now know Brittney Griner because of this whole, you know what I'm saying? This whole ordeal when it comes down to her being detained in Russia. But then also in turn, and I'll put it on this perspective, maybe it's not up to me to say anything in reference to her messing up her lick. Maybe it's not up to me to say anything when it comes down to how androgynous she is. Maybe that's not up to me to even say anything about it. However, it is a factor that is talked about within that community.
Yeah.
And I know that's true. I know that's true. But the biggest thing that anyone, I don't care what community you're a part of, that should take out of this is the dynamic of you messing with your bread, sis. You fucking with your bread. Out of an opportunity, not a definite investment. I'm just saying. But you got anything else in that?
I don't think so. I would like to hear. I'm getting kind of tired of hearing about, especially for the women. The men, I'm sorry. I always felt like it was a double standard. Like when men are caught doing something, especially for celebrity men, like professional athletes, they get caught doing something. I'm not saying it doesn't hit the fan. This shit does hit the fan too, but it just don't hit it like if
they're able to bounce back more
yeah
because
yeah
of how they have more value in the specific profession that they are doing. Because you have more people in the world, and it doesn't matter if it's basketball. It could be movies. They could be an actor. It doesn't matter. Men are valued more in sports because men are able to do certain things than women are. Give an example, basketball. Tell me a time you've ever seen a female basketball player be able to dunk.
Okay, just disclaimer, I watch no sports. I am not the person to ask that question. The only sport now, what I will say, I won't say that. The only sport that I will watch, and I think that my ex-boyfriend was actually surprised at this, but I will watch boxing. I love boxing.
Oh yeah.
And when I want to watch boxing, I'm real serious about it because I do like it. I think it takes technique. I think it takes courage. And let's be honest, who wants to get into a ring and get beat up? Who wants to get I think it's just bravery, and I like it for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't necessarily care for the women fighters. And I say that because for me, I think it's more of a like, um, not appearance thing, but
Let me ask you.
I just don't care for it too much.
Let
I'm
me
not saying
ask
that it's
you.
not as entertaining, it's just not
Let me ask you a
me.
question. What's the more entertaining bout? Two men fighting or two women fighting?
For me, it was just two men fighting. Even if it was a street fight, like even like in
Even
DC
if.
in the summer, they used to be like street fights, and then I would even go to like they used to have these boxing matches like in neighborhoods,
Yeah.
or
You
even when
know,
they had
two
like
people
boys like at recreation centers with
two
them
people had an
getting a
issue, you know what I'm
fight.
saying? They pull
Yeah,
out the gloves. You know what I'm saying? Or
yeah,
two people had an issue, didn't matter. Bare fists, didn't matter.
yeah.
You know, like that's a thing, but predominantly it's more so men sparking that off. You know?
But I would even go to say that they don't take it serious for women. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
If you're talking about for entertainment purposes, I think that women can be more entertaining. But if you're talking about if I want to see a
Depending
serious
on what it
fight, like
is.
if I want to see it serious, I'm probably going to look at a man's fight.
To
It's just
depending depending
yeah,
on what it is, that is the catalyst of entertainment. Because
yeah,
more so, you have a lot of people that will. I'll give an example. When it comes down to television series, right? You have more people that are wanting to look at love and hip hop because of the dynamics in which women are arguing with women,
yeah, being catty. To me,
being
that's
catty,
entertaining.
being catty,
It's entertaining.
absolutely. But if
Well,
you are wanting to go see a boxing match, you know what I'm saying? Let's give an example when it
yeah.
comes down to Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. If you wanted to go see a boxing match, 9 times out of 10, you're wanting to go see men fight than women more so because you have an interest in being more entertained because you know more men can do more within that medium. They can do more. Not saying that women can't, but it's rare that you have more women being able to hit harder where the hit echoes in the arena.
And I think it's also just the tension, like the tension. I think that when women do it for some of them, it's like to prove a point. Like I watched Layla
Yeah.
Ali fight, and I'm not discrediting her.
Great fighter.
I think she's a great fighter.
Great fighter. Yes.
But if I had to choose between watching her or Floyd Mayweather, I'm probably not gonna watch Layla. I'm probably not unless he ain't fighting. I mean, I'm just not, and that may be a personal choice. But can she beat my ass? Absolutely. But it's just just personal choice. But I think that for I just want to see it would be nice or refreshing to see these, especially these these black athletes or these black women.
Yeah.
Because now I'm thinking about Shikari and what happened with her,
Shakari
and I know it's not the
Richardson.
same issue, but it makes me think about her.
Mm-hmm.
This it's just it's just kind of like annoying y'all. Who's right? Because here's the thing. I'm not saying that it's their fault, and I'm not. What I'm saying is that if you know that shit is against you, just do what you need to do to not get in trouble.
This is this
That's
is
my
where
mindset.
we all have
You
to
know what I mean?
understand. Like to give an example, when it comes out of my profession, I have to understand I can be looked at a certain way just because historically people that look like me often are looked in different ways than other people that don't look like me.
Yeah.
That is a factor doesn't necessarily mean it's a hindrance. It's just a factor that does exist dependent upon certain professionals that are in leadership positions. Because everybody, bias and emotion, right? A person's bias when it comes down to the things that they have been taught, in addition to the things that they have developed over time in their mind on how they see others and how they see themselves. Emotion, those things in reference to what has traumatized you over a period of time based on a particular experience that you cannot get out of your brain because it's burned there. So those two factors reinforce people keeping racism alive, prejudice alive, bigotry alive, all the factors in which you're going to go up against someone because of how you see them. But the thing is, more so you're going to get away with it based on the leadership position that you're actually in because you've done it before. And you haven't been checked. Not in the way that you should, as far as taking away the bias, taking away the emotion, and using objective thinking as a means to give everybody a chance. You know? That's all I have. Anything else?
No, but I have an idea for the next episode.
Okay, what's the idea? We'll put it in this episode. What's the idea?
I don't know if you've been following this. Let me make sure I got it right. But I think that they are trying to implement some new, like there's some changes coming to gun laws.
Oh, there's all that's already. We can go in. We could definitely go in.
Yeah, but I have that's
we
that's
could
what's on my brain.
We could definitely
Even
go
at work, I caught it in the kitchen. It was on, like we have a flat screen in our break room. Yeah. And I looked. I went in there to get coffee. Mm-hmm. I think last week, and then it was on there, and I said, "Oh, what's this?"
Yeah.
So that could be an idea.
Yeah, we could.
Not the next episode, but
I mean, we have an episode about 2A. Being able to talk about 2A and gun laws in this country and how they're seeing the history of gun laws. You know what I'm saying? Like why gun laws, the existence of them were created. Like we could really go in on that. Nevertheless, another episode, Real Raw Exchange Podcast. Y'all take it easy. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.